Hi, I'm Scott Weiss. I've run into the wall of my own ego so often. I'm finally listening to God and doors are opening.
Hey there. Welcome to the Redirect Podcast. This is where we dive into real conversations, share stories, and just hang out talking about finding our purpose in retirement. We're glad you're along for the ride, and let's get into it. Curt, Dale, back in the studio again. Another great episode in front of us. Let's see if we can unpack it and share with the audience some goodness. As we get going, a little question to get the creative juices going. Buckle in. Here we go. Where do you feel like God is leading you?
He's constantly nudging me. He's led me into this endeavor that we're involved with, right? You know, as you go back to the origin story about that little thing in my heart that said, let's go out and see if we can have conversations with people as they transition from a pretty big part of their life into a completely different part of their life potentially. And how do you deal with that on the personal side? So I'm attentive to that, and I hope that I continue to see that he is in front of us, right, and feel his presence. The other thing is that he nudges me every day because I do have those tendencies to maybe not necessarily be the best who I can be. And as I start to be a bump on a log or judge or think of things in ways that I shouldn't, I just get this little feeling that he's just like, come on, you can be better than that. And then all of a sudden it's like, you're right. Elevate. Get yourself above it. It's just a little thing. It doesn't really matter. The big story is what it's all about, and that's giving glory and honor to him. And once I say that, it's like, yeah, okay, I'm back. My train has been put back on the track, and I'm ready to move forward again.
That's an interesting visual.
Yeah. I got a follow-up behind that.
Yeah.
That's good.
Let's see what you got.
Curt. Last week or two where we had somebody on where we were talking about just inflection points in our life.
Yeah.
You know, and I know that God throws these things at us, you know, and it goes back a long way for me, just a little here and there. But, you know, it was always about speaking, you know, for God, speaking the word of God. I think this Redirect podcast was something just naturally happened. I mean, it was God kind of pointing us in certain directions. But for me, when I look back over all my inflection points, it's opportunities pop up. It's whether or not we act on them, and we need to act on them. I've taken advantage of some opportunities that just made themselves available, and I think, you know, God puts these inflection points in front of us, and the tough part is going ahead and acting on them or taking that risk or whatever that is. And that's how God leads, by giving us the opportunity to be curious and wanting to grow and take advantage of opportunities. That's how God leads me. He throws these opportunities, and we either do something with them or not. And my life has been about trying to do something when I see it as an opportunity. And it's always looking back that I realize, well, that was from God. You know, that was part of his plan.
That's cool.
Wow. How about you, Adam?
For me, so I did a little poking around on the interweb.
Really?
No kidding.
So surprising.
Can't believe it.
Gosh, I thought everything that came to you was just totally Adam, but apparently not. We're now going to call you Adam I. Go ahead.
That's right. AI. Still a thing. So I went looking for how many times in the Bible did God put something on someone's heart. God put in a man's heart to do something, or God hardened someone's heart, or God softened someone's heart so that he could speak to them or they would receive something different. And it was really interesting. The search came back. There's not many clear, like direct phrases where God said God put in someone's heart to do something. That's happened like 12 times in the Bible. But if you expand that search out to he softened hearts or hardened hearts or spoke to a heart, those instances in which God steered people by putting something in them or causing something to happen to them, it's more than a dozen. It's in the dozens of dozens, and it's really impactful. I have a somewhat unpopular opinion about this. I don't think God's plan for everyone is meticulously planned out with lots of details. I think God has big picture ideas for you, like move to Cincinnati. Where you buy a house, does God, we've talked about this before, does God care if I have chicken or spaghetti for dinner? I don't think he cares. God grants me the ability to make choices. I'm not just a free will, I can choose to love him. I have a free will, I can choose my path. And as long as that path acknowledges him, and all my ways acknowledge him, and he'll direct my paths. So I think there's a lot of value in making God-focused, God-centered choices along the way, but those choices are mine to make. As far as God leading me and steering me in my own life, I'm as balanced, and I'm so thrilled by being able to say that word. I'm as balanced in my life as I've ever been. My work life is, for the most part, under control. It's subservient to me. I'm not subservient to it. My volunteer and church relationship and my volunteer opportunities, as well as my relationships and how I show up and serve those and the other extracurriculars that I'm engaged with like this, I think for the most part are in line with what would be pleasing to him. And so, yeah, I'm feeling really good about all of that for myself.
And we have a guest that's going to talk about how God has led him. Kept really looking forward to our friend of the Redirect podcast today.
And Scott, if you can help me improve that idea that it's somewhat of an uncultivated concept in my mind that I think God has a big picture plan. I don't think God has a detailed plan.
Well, I love you guys. I love what you're saying. And it parallels. One of the devotions I do every day is Oswald Chambers, my best for his utmost, or my utmost for his best. And this week he's focused on that story in Isaiah where God asks, "Who shall we send?"
Here am I, send me.
Here am I, send me. And I've always interpreted that as, I'd love to hear God say that. God, I wish you'd talk like that to me. And Oswald Chambers says, that's not what happens.
No.
God's talking all the time. We're just not listening. We're just not listening. It's little nudges. And if you're not getting little nudges on chicken over hot dogs, God ain't talking about that, right?
Yeah.
But for somebody else,
Maybe he is.
Maybe they got a health issue.
I think God would say chicken would be better because he created the chicken and the hot dog is sort of
you're probably right.
Anyway. Today's friend of the Redirect podcast is Scott Weiss. Having known Scott for several years, I'm really excited about having him with us today and for him to share his experiences as a board member and CEO of consumer product companies, as well as accelerator groups that launch new business ventures, and one primarily with a heavy faith focus. Scott was the founding CEO of Ocean Accelerator, which has grown into a multi-dimensional entrepreneur training program that attracts high-tech and Main Street startups from around the world. Prior to Ocean, Scott served as CEO of the Evenflow Company and led the successful turnaround and sale of the business to 3 different global transactions. He's also served as president and managing director for Foster's Wine Estates Americas, multiple divisions of the Clorox Company at Procter & Gamble, and for Bristol Myers Squibb Australia. Scott spent half his career living and leading businesses in the Pacific Rim. His board memberships include the Inline Plastics Company, a packaging and container manufacturing group, Circle, a forward-thinking employee communications suite, and Kidsy, a platform for parents to shop with intention, reject the throwaway culture, and capture significant savings. Scott's been married to Charla for 46 years, and they have 3 adult children. He is an avid cyclist, a ready participant in mission trips that promote entrepreneurial activity. Welcome to the Redirect podcast, Scott Weiss.
Thanks, buddy.
It's great having you here, Scott. Thanks for joining us. So, got a little question. You had a 32-year career in the corporate world. Tell us about some of those inflection points that confronted you that sort of Dale was talking about that you experienced. You know, your career, and then also the decision to walk away?
Sure. First, I was blessed. Fantastic career, great companies, unbelievable people throughout them. But I'm going to talk about the last company I worked at, which was Evenflow up in Dayton. And Evenflow was and had been a very innovative company, really a founder of many of the child safety products that we take for granted now. But with the big recession, it got itself into a lot of financial trouble, got way over leveraged. So they went through a leadership change, brought me in, and fundamentally the strategy that had worked for decades was breadth. Take the Evenflow name and put it on every product we sell. Well, in a time of declining birth rates and fewer kids, breadth was no longer your friend because you had to defend share in every single product category. So we rebooted the strategy, did some other things. Ultimately, that led to all three of the diverse businesses underneath that umbrella growing, and that allowed us to start selling them. This was a private equity-held firm at the time. And so over the course of about 16 months, we had 3 separate transactions. Only one of them an auction. The other were always private placements. So you're in the middle of this and trying to run a company. And I don't think I slept for a year.
Wow.
I remember picking up my oldest son, flying into Cincinnati from California, where he lives and we used to live, on Christmas Eve. And I'm at the Cincinnati airport upstairs looking down at the escalator. And he's coming up towards me. And I'm on the phone negotiating a term of the deal. It was just crazy. So anyway, it all gets done, and the final sale, the third sale, which was the largest chunk of the business, was finalized but had not been announced. And the week before we're making that announcement, Charla, my wife of 46 years, and I are in New Orleans on a go trip. And go trips are hard. You know, we're out and we're in this heat every day.
For 1 second, what is, for our listeners, what's a go trip?
A go trip is basically a mission trip. And I attend Crossroads Church here in Cincinnati, and they organize trips of anywhere from, I've been on one which was 20 people to hundreds of people, and you go to a region here in the United States or internationally, and you do work. You work with your hands. And every day you worship in the morning, and every night you get in a small group and talk about it. So it's really like putting your faith in action.
That's great.
So
Sorry, as you were.
That's okay. That's okay. On the third day, and every day you get a new T-shirt. Every day you get a different color T-shirt. So, and I thought that was so cool. We got there. I got like 5 T-shirts or 6 T-shirts. And then I knew why. Because at the end of every day, you throw away the T-shirt. And you're just covered with sweat.
Yeah.
But like the third day, the spiritual practice we're going to do is prayer day. So somebody has a piece of duct tape put on the back of their T-shirt, and their job is to meet every person on your work project. And we were in a field cutting down overgrown weeds. And, you know, at that point I would have been 60. I'm 70 now, 60 around. And this young woman, younger than my youngest child, walks up to me with the duct tape. And she's the prayer warrior. So she wants to pray with me. And that's a little daunting. Like, okay.
Yeah.
But I just took it at heart, and I closed my eyes. She put her hands on my shoulders, and I said, God, you brought me here to lead this company. You've enabled this to turn around. You've enabled this sale. And if you want me to stay with this enterprise, which the buyer had told me they wanted me to stay, I'll do it. I will do it to shepherd people through this massive change. I had the occasion to do that in other jobs I had. But then I got really quiet, and I said, but I don't want to. I'm exhausted. I'm just exhausted. So go on, and, you know, we have a great time, and then we get on the bus to come home because, you know, if you go on a mission trip, you have to ride a bus.
Are you singing songs too?
Oh, yeah. You can hear a little bitterness in my voice. A 6'4" guy on a bus. But anyway, we're coming home. We're coming into Cincinnati from New Orleans. So we drove all night. And my mobile phone goes off. And I look at it, and it's the lead negotiator for the buyer. Now, we're announcing the deal the next day. And I look at it, and I turn to Charlotte, and I say, I'm about to get fired. And she goes, how could you know that? I said, well, you only call somebody on a Sunday morning to give them a job, and I have the job.
Or to take it.
Or to take it. You got it. Yeah. And then I told her, because unfortunately I've had to do this in my career, the first thing he's going to say is, Scott, we're going in a different direction. I said, hello. And he goes, Scott, we're going in a different direction.
Oh, my goodness.
And I was thrilled.
Yeah, it's an answer to prayer.
Yeah.
Clarity is a wonderful
Wow.
thing.
Answer to prayer. The next day I drove up, got all my personal stuff out of the office after the announcement, said goodbye to everybody, went home, and now I'm retired. And
Explain your mindset at that moment. I mean, you got the phone call. Regardless, it's like going a different direction. You're, thank goodness. Really? Take me through that kind of 24-hour period.
that's a good way to frame it. You know, the first few hours you're overjoyed because it's an answer to prayer.
Yeah.
But Dale, when you were introducing the concept, often you're nudged to do things and you go and do them, opportunities, doesn't mean it'll be easy. And that started to set in after the first few hours. What am I going to do Tuesday? What am I going to do Wednesday?
Yeah.
I hadn't taken any of the advice some of your other great guests have talked about in terms of anticipating or planning, because I really thought I had another few years to make this transition.
We've seen the stat that like 60% of people who retire don't retire on their own terms.
That's probably true. So I just kind of sit around home, and then I went to an unpolished event, which was a group at the time of lifestyle entrepreneurs, really, some high-tech, but really entrepreneurs, just getting together once a month at a Crossroads facility and breaking into small groups and talking. And I meet some of the founders of that, and then we go out and 2 of them or 3 of them invite me out for coffee, and they're forming this thing called Ocean. And Ocean was going to be a high-tech accelerator, bringing in entrepreneurs from all over the world, putting seed money into them, but integrating classic entrepreneur accelerator training with faith-based principles. And I was like intrigued. And they said, well, we'd like you to be on our board. I said, no, what am I doing? I'm riding my bike a lot. I'm making coffee at Crossroads 1 day a week. I thought, well, I got the time.
Let's see if I can squeeze that in.
Yeah, well, get the calendar. Okay, first Tuesday. So I say yes, and we haven't even had a board meeting, and I'm at home one day, and my mobile phone rings. I have no idea who it is. Pick it up. It's the senior pastor at Crossroads, Brian Tome, who I had met personally once in my life. And he goes, hey, he said, I hear you got some free time. I think you need to step in and take over Ocean as CEO.
Wow.
And I'm like, okay. He says, do you need to think about it? I said, no. I said, I'll do it, having no idea what that meant. A great concept, great founders, incredible financial support from Crossroads. But the founders all had their own companies and didn't have the time to nurture, guide, select, be there every day. And so I took the role without understanding what it was or what it needed to be. And I played part-time at it for a while when finally my eyes opened. I said, I got to be here every day. And I got to get these entrepreneurs to my house for dinner every week. And I've got to start getting all kinds of guest speakers to come in and talk about their journey, about how they built businesses and how and if and when the Holy Spirit showed up. So then it became something, and that was creative and challenging. And then I had to raise money for a nonprofit. Now, I'm a for-profit guy my entire life, right? I have no idea how to raise money, and our results reflected that very well. Over time, we kept it going, and it grew, had a lot of impact, launched hundreds of companies, expanded it, folded in unpolished, developed a training program for lifestyle entrepreneurs. And after about 8 years, I think 7 years, I was ready to retire from that. I thought, okay, and I had my replacement in place, great guy named Luke. Yep. Luke was ready to take over, and then COVID happened. You can't leave a nonprofit as the founding CEO and the major fundraiser when you're going through COVID. You just can't. So Luke and I working together to get it through COVID, which was awesome. And then I hung around for another year. Luke's now running it, and I'm just doing the accelerator. Of all the things Ocean did, I'm just doing the accelerator. And then I realized I shouldn't be here anymore. I just need to go. My heart's not in it anymore, so I fully retired. Luke took over, and now I really was retired. And Dale already took you through it. I spend my time on boards. I'm an investor in a woodworking business up in Deerfield called the Ohio Wood Connection, and I ride my bike a lot. And and I go to multiple small groups. I have a great time. Now I listen. Now when God says, who will go? I will, Lord.
What was that span of time between, getting the call on the bus, they're going a different direction, and getting the call from Brian Tome?
It was less than a year. It was
kidding.
It was a few months.
That's crazy.
It's crazy fast.
Ironically and coincidentally, the sale of Evenflow coincided with the announcement that Ocean was going to be funded, that Crossroads was going to make a major grant or gift to this thing called Ocean. And that's why I went to that first meeting, because I thought, what is it? What is happening? And then it all just kind of unfolded. Yeah, it was fun.
The convergence of willingness, like, hey, young person praying with me, I'll do it if you want me to, God, but I don't really want to. Mm-hmm. I just give me some guidance. That prayer, by mere lunar cycles, right? Just a couple lunar cycles later, pow, you're a CEO of a completely different organization. That is breathtaking.
Well, thank you. It is. It's amazing, and it was really hard. It was very rewarding.
Why? What was hard about it?
I didn't know how to run a nonprofit. I didn't understand what was involved in running an accelerator. I had a lot of battle scars and I think a lot of wisdom. I had done a lot of training in my life as an executive in the various companies. They all have training programs. I'd led a lot of them. So I had a conceptual understanding of how to pass on wisdom. But it's very different starting up a company, whether it's a bakery or an AI high-tech company. It's very different starting it versus running it.
Sure.
And I had to translate all the running it principles into starting it up, and I had to bring in people who actually knew how to start up things. So there's a lot of humility here of, I really don't know how to do this. I got pretty good at it.
What would you say was the thing that you brought into that endeavor that was like, hey, this is a powerhouse strength that I have that this opportunity needs? What were you good at?
I'm really good at translating operating results into language and metrics that investors understand, and I'm really good at helping investors decipher and understanding operating metrics. So I could prepare the founders who went through Ocean to describe their vision and what they needed in a way that an investor could see how they could get a return.
Did that have any impact on raising funds itself?
Very much so. Raising capital for the companies we were very successful at. Raising nonprofit funds, you're competing with a bunch of great causes, right?
Sure.
And helping more faith Christ followers launch businesses and create cultures that succeed, that exceed expectations on all business metrics, but also exceed all cultural norms is critical. Culture is created at work. People spend most of their waking lives at work, right? It shapes you, and all of us have had, and many people will have terrible experiences in work cultures. Mm-hmm. So if we can affect that, that's hands and feet of Christ right there. So we got to get this done. So the mission was really, really clear, but it's hard to sell that to someone making gifts against, saving lives, helping children, turning around desperate neighborhoods all over the world. It's really hard to compete with that. And then on top of that, they're like, well, when these companies succeed, don't you get a return? Absolutely. There was a fund. We got a return. But it takes 7 years to get a company big enough to sell it. We were at year one. I'm looking ahead. I got to keep this all going for the number of years. But, we did it. We pulled it off. It was just really challenging.
So there's an adage out there that you make your own luck, and this runs kind of parallel, I think, with a lot of things we're talking about. Only because opportunities happen. You've now moved into this period where you're open for opportunities. What are you doing to make opportunities?
One of my focuses for this year is a continuation of a focus for a number of years. and that is investing in my network. So I'm pretty anal, pretty analytical. Dale would know that because we worked at the same company for a long time.
We learned well.
Pretty buttoned up. So I literally have a list of people that are important to me, and every week on Monday or Sunday is my planning time. I look through it and I pick somebody on it that I'm going to contact.
Wow.
Or I'm going to write a note to, or I'm going to set up a coffee with. Now, these are global friends because I've been blessed and lived all over the world. So often it's a Zoom call.
How deep is that list? How many people?
Oh, right now it's about 25.
Nice.
And a lot of them are people who have founded businesses, and I'm safe haven. I'm someone who saw them from day one, and I still see them so they can talk to me. And what that leads to is incredible responsibility on my part to listen and not lead.
Wow.
To reflect, not guide. When people come to you with their innermost secrets, they're not looking for advice. They're looking for safe haven and the right questions.
Interesting. Yeah.
And those people call other people. So now I've been introduced to a guy here in town who has built an incredible platform of content that he's turning into an app and a program for to develop men. And he's got a distribution channel that's unique. And he and his son are about to launch, and I'm having a great time with him. And that all came from somebody saying, you ought to talk to Scott. I had never met the guy. I'll have coffee with you. And now I meet with him once a month, and we go through his business canvas model.
T.D. Dirk.
Absolutely.
Yeah, he was a friend. He's been on our show.
T.D.'s a great guy.
Yeah.
And
we knew you were talking about, like, hey, that sounds familiar.
I could tell by the eyeballs. So I was with him yesterday for an hour, and it's like what he's gotten done in a month is amazing. Going from, I've got this concept, I've got 4 brands. And there are times I guide and there's times I direct. So he said, give me some feedback. I said, there's no way you can launch a new company with 4 brands. Right. Get this back to 1. He said, why not? I said, you don't have the money. 4 brands, 4 different campaigns, 4 different websites. And then also he says, well, we're just going to launch it and men will come. I said, look, this ain't a movie. That ain't the way it works.
No.
You have a natural distribution channel through your church. They have nothing like this. Sure enough, he has 3 models set up. He's going into beta. It's all happening. I'm just thrilled to be a part of that. It's a little onlooker who spends an hour a month with him.
Yeah. We will rejoin our conversation in just a moment. Thank you for listening to the Redirect Podcast. We appreciate your support. Do you love what you're hearing? Don't keep it to yourself. Follow the Redirect Podcast on Apple Podcast and Spotify and never miss an episode that inspires your next chapter in life's journey. While you're there, hit a 5-star rating, leave a review, and share your favorite episode with a friend who's ready for their own life pivot. And don't forget to join the conversation on Instagram at The Redirect Podcast. Comment, tag us, and let us know how you are redirecting your journey. Now let's get back to today's conversation. So in your opening, you mentioned ego. Talk about that.
Yeah, it's still in the room. I mean, it's huge. It's
gets in the way of God.
Absolutely. I was at a training session last night on the deeper meaning of communion. I serve on the communion team at Crossroads. And out of the blue, they said, hey, if you're interested, we're going to spend 3 weeks just talking about this. What does that mean? And the question is about, as a server, what does it mean to you? And so it was my turn to talk, and I said, look, right before we serve communion, not the little cups, but when you go and get it, I always freak out. Like, I'm always on the balcony. There's usually not enough servers. I'm usually at a station by myself, and I'm just totally freaking out. Like, I get back there early, you got to wear gloves. Look at my hands. The gloves never fit.
I get it.
Like, I'll go through 3 pair. Yeah. I got to tear some bread up. I got to pour this. Yeah. And then right before people start coming up, something comes over me, and I realize I have to set me aside. My ego is driving that anxiety that it's got to be perfect, that I've got to have the bread torn the right way, that I've got to have. It's like, that's not what this is about at all. This is about me being a server the words we used last night, is really a priest welcoming people into communion. And with a tone and a direct eye contact that reminds them what this is. And it's not about me. It's about the guy who made it possible.
So it's about the bread.
It's about the bread.
It's about the blood.
It's about the blood and the power of it.
Yeah.
So you got to get your ego out of the way. And that's been the biggest challenge for me in my faith walk. And I came to Christ in the 5th grade. I remember the day. My 5th grade teacher in a public school system also happened to be an ordained pastor in a Baptist church, which we did not attend. But back then, things were different because, of course, I lived when dinosaurs walked around on the earth. And he said, hey, there's this Billy Graham revival. It was a simulcast revival. If anybody wants to go, bring me a permission slip from your parents. I'll take whatever kids want to go. I went, and, man, it hit me.
Thank God for times like that.
Wow.
I walked down that aisle, never looked back. My family was casually Christian, nothing, good people.
Yep.
But like I'm in it. I'm in it to win it. And that faith kept growing. The reason I married Charla, the reason I asked her to marry me is when I took her on that first date at Indiana University. I took her out to a lecture, a political lecture. She hates politics. I love politics. And then I took her to coffee, and I knew the coffee shop owner, and we sat down to have hot chocolate or something like at 10 p.m. At 2 a.m., he walks up and says, get out. Like, get out. Go home. So we walked back to the dorm, and I was gone. I knew more than I knew anything in my life, you are going to be my wife. And it was the strength of her spiritual conviction. She's a woman of deep faith. So we got married because of that. And then I got hired by Procter & Gamble, and then I started worshiping Scott's ego.
Before you get into Procter & Gamble, we have had the pleasure of talking to Charla. And look, you're a great dude. You seem amazing. And I'm impressed. I'd like to get to know you better. We all punch above our weight class. You, sir, might have punched the farthest above weight classes. She's fantastic.
I married so far up you can't see it from here. She is amazing.
Yeah.
And but that was all driven by the Spirit. And then it wasn't P&G. It's just in the corporate world, the grind begins. I had some talent at what we did. And I was never driven to be a CEO. I'm not one of the guys who had the 10-year plan and here's all the promotions. But I was driven.
Yeah.
I was driven. And, I was at Procter, a great place, unbelievable friends, great leadership. And after 5 years, I said, what's next? What's next? And I really never lasted in any company except Clorox more than 5 years.
Ditto.
I wanted to go see what was next. And I always went smaller.
Yeah.
Because I wanted to separate what was great about that last company versus what I could do. And then eventually you run into what you can't do.
So was it leaving the bigger company to go to a smaller one because you'd have more value? Or was it completely a different arena that you were testing, you were challenging yourself on a new challenge?
The latter.
Okay.
The latter.
Okay.
I wanted to get growth. And I think that's critical once post-retirement. Beyond engaging with people, I shared this with you guys when we were talking. We went off. We had our whole family in for Thanksgiving. Then our daughter's now married, so she spends Christmas. She flip-flops holidays. So then our sons who aren't married come in when she's coming. So we had Christmas alone. And instead of staying here, as much as I love Cincinnati, we spent the week in New York. And we go to a small hotel, which is about 2 blocks from the city library. And the name of this hotel is the library. And they decorate the whole place with books. There's
Wow.
This is a plug for the library, I guess. There's 3,000 books on property. And the second floor of the property has a reading room, 24/7, constant fruit, healthy snacks, hot water, coffee, bubbly water. You go and read. So we designed a 7-day stay where we did one New York-y thing a day, went to a museum or went to a play. And the rest of the time we prayed and read and walked.
Wow.
And I came out of that with 5 intentions for 2026, not resolutions, but intentions. And I am diligently pursuing them. Some of them I've done my whole life. Like I've been an athlete my whole life. And so it was just fine-tuning what I do to be an athlete today. But getting more focused and concentrated on my networks, that was a change.
Nice.
Then I said, I've got this list. Let's start tracking it. In fact, I had lunch yesterday with one of the guys on the list. It was great. And the other was my reading. I've become lazy. And I thought, no, I need to read a diverse array of content, and I need to be knocking off like 2 books a month. Whether I get to 24 books in 2026 doesn't matter.
Yeah.
But right now, I just started a slim volume of poetry. I only read 1 poem a day. I've never read poetry in my life. Boom.
Really?
And this poet was the first published African-American, I think author, but maybe female author. She was an enslaved person and became a U.S. stamp's being released by her. So when I was reading about her, I said, I've never heard of her in my life. Shows lack of education and awareness. So I got her book of poetry. It's amazing. I'm reading a factual story that's been enhanced with fictional conversations that likely occurred, but they don't really know. And then I'm listening to this great little short story from an Irish author. So I'm knocking it out of the park right now and loving it because I'm doing things I'm not used to and thinking things, and it's great.
I love that you've had the opportunity to take some time to continue on your plan being a work in progress.
Yeah.
This stop at the beginning of the year to just look at 2026. You didn't say, the rest of my retirement. Right. This is an intentional focus on some buckets that are in front of you this year. And I think, Curt, you and I always talk about redirection just being a work in progress. And I think you just spoke to that.
So where's God in this? How is he leading you? How do you listen to God? How do you know that it's God and not your ego? Or yourself. Forget
or your ambition and your drive.
Yeah. But that could be fostered from God.
Sure.
Because he's made us, right, in his image. But talk to me more about God leading and then listening to God.
What I've learned, what works for me, so I'm not saying this works for everybody, is you got to spend time alone and you've got to get focused. So I start every day with 2 different devotionals, a lot of time in Scripture, and then I journal about what I read. What is this saying to me right now? And that creates hyperlinks. Like all of a sudden I remember, I wrote about that 2 weeks ago. Wow. I said, there's something there that had nothing to do with me. Like these devotionals were published or created, I'm sure, a year ago, and they just flow out every day on the internet, right? Wow. What does that mean? So that's always the hyperlink that starts my curiosities. And then I go into a pretty extended period of prayer, and I always finish that prayer, and I just say, what do you want me to know? And I try to get really calm, which is really hard, because then, I got to pick up coffee. Got to wash the truck. Dale and I are going to meet, whatever. But I just let those thoughts come in and go, and I just listen.
So it's intermits throughout the day. It's not like a dedicated time that you're doing from 6 to 8 in the morning.
It starts with a dedicated time.
Okay.
A little bit earlier than 6. But then throughout the day, I take pauses. I think that prepares me to hear. It's when the things come up like Dale was talking about, an opportunity or an event. You meet somebody. Something happens. And often I really screw it up. More often than not, I really screw it up.
Yeah.
I miss it. And then it's clear to me, that was an opportunity to be different, to be caring, to display humor, to show love in an appropriate way. And instead, I was rude, egotistic, and had to have it my way. And then I reflect, okay, God, I missed that one. I repent. So show me the next one. So I'm more on edge, always looking for. He speaks to me through nudges and through other people and through events. Like yesterday when I was with TD, who we were just talking about, there were 3 or 4 times in that conversation when he and his son Jude are going on about where they're at and where they're going. I just was so humbled because I thought, this isn't me. Like the Holy Spirit's at work here. Don't screw it up, Scott. That's what I said to myself. Don't try to take over. Just go with the flow.
Don't get in the way.
I said to myself, it's not about you talking. So it's an ongoing process. It's, the 2 times in my life when it was a verbal was when the prayer was answered down in New Orleans and when Brian called me and said, I think you should do this. Now, what an invitation, right? I think you should do this.
There's no question mark there.
Welcome to Brian
I think you
Tome.
should do this. Absolutely. And I'm like, Charlotte came home, hey, Brian Tome called me. Again, we didn't know him at the time. We've since done trips with him, and I'm very blessed. Every now and then we get together for coffee. I think he considers me a friend. I certainly consider him one. And but to call somebody up who's really a stranger, I think you should do this. I understand you got some time on your hands. I think you should do this. I mean, that's God. That's God. And thank God I said yes.
Have you ever had an opportunity that came to you that was presented to you in the ways like you're describing, and then once you get into it, you're just like, no, this is just not. This is not what I should be doing, and then how did you discern that? You know what I mean? As opposed, because I always ask the question many times, is like, how do you know that it's God, as opposed to me with that little nudge that I want to do this.
Yeah. It happens more often now in my personal life. So we have 3 children. They're all adults, and they both have joys and challenges, and some of one of their challenges, and I'm not going to get into it, but one of their challenges is really profound and has created a lot of chaos and challenge and pain. Looking back, when I've responded and intervened and tried to guide and help, I wasn't listening to God at all. It was just totally about, I know what to do. Here's what you do it in this order, A, B, C. And clearly I love him, but I was also putting, we don't talk about the children that are challenges. We don't. Instagram's not filled with, here's the challenges I have. Mm-hmm. You won't believe where I was last night. You won't believe that this is the 270th time I've had to do this. We don't talk about that. And we try to hide that. And I'm just like everybody else. It's not that I'm trying to hide it, but I don't hang it out there. So a lot of that was driven by, I got to get this solved because I don't want this to come out. And then eventually I realized I am really screwing up whatever plan God has for my son. I don't abandon him, but I no longer am a control freak. He has every right to live his own life and to make his own choices and to deal with the consequences of those choices. And he has every right to expect unfailing love from us, but not enablement. It took a long time to be able to say that without crying.
Yeah.
Long time.
It's hard.
It's really hard. Yeah. So in my personal life, and, lots of people I've worked with, if they ever hear this podcast, are going, you're not the same Scott Weiss I worked with. And they would be right. I'm not.
Yeah.
I'm not. And constant pressure over time creates change. And that's what the Holy Spirit's really good at, constant pressure over time.
When we were talking about your 2026, one of the areas that I remember you mentioned was about forgiveness.
Mm-hmm.
How is that working?
Really well. I spent a lot of time thinking about my son or my brothers or my parents who are gone now, God bless them both. But you hold on to I remember that conversation. You hold on to your hurts, right? Mm-hmm. You hold on to them. You carry them. Becomes your badge. And the story you tell about, look what happened to me, is probably 10% accurate. And over time, you have honed it and refined it and have the right sound bites to have exactly the impact you want so it lands with whoever you're telling it to exactly. And I've made inventories of those, and I've just been real honest in my prayer time that something happened there, and it obviously impacted me, and it was hurtful. But whatever it was, I'm not even sure I remember it accurately, and I forgive you. Whether they're with me, whether they're on this earth or not. And that's been very freeing for me. We
also have what I call euphoric recall, that in those instances of hurt, wounds, or disadvantage, inconvenience that was placed upon us, we traditionally assume the worst intentions by the other and the best intentions by us. the worst execution of details, facts, and what could have been good choices by others, and we assume we were blameless in some of those altercations. I can only speak for myself, but what the thing you were just describing resonates with me because I think I create my own victim narrative about elements of my past that I was perfect and blameless in, and I had nothing to do. I was not wrong. The other person did me wrong, and I get to carry that hurt with me and hold it against them forever. And that is more than just bad logic. It is a root of bitterness. It is destructive to relationships and even your heart, your own heart and capacity to be honest with yourself and you're honest with God. What's your take on that?
You're reminding me of a book I just finished, which I think is called What Really Matters. And it's written by a woman who is a death doula. I didn't know such people existed, but she is expert at this, and she wrote an article that became the most read article in whatever, in the Substack or whatever. And then they convinced her to turn in the book. And so she wrote this book, What Really Matters, and it's like 50 or 75 lessons she's learned from people as she shepherds them from this life to the next and their families. And she says it's not, and everyone says, death doula, what a terrible job. She says, great job, because I have learned what really matters. And she passes it on. And one of the things, so anal Scott, I read the book and I wrote down all 100 chapters, just the title. And every Sunday in my reminder system, up it comes, and I have to pick a different thing to focus on that week. And this week, my focus was make sure the people you love know you love them. Because we don't tell them. Like, make sure they know. Say what you feel so they know. And that falls right into, as I went through the process of thinking through these hurts I'd hold on to so long, and that I probably had that euphoric view of it. When the person was still alive, like I did it for each three of my children, I sat down and wrote them a very specific letter. In part, I owned up to things that I wish I had done better. We had a great family life. Kids had a great life. They're all launched. They all got to go to school. You know, but there were things I could have done better. And I told them that. And I told them the reason I wish I'd done it better is because I love you so much. And here's what I wish for you. So I put it in writing, and I read it to make sure it wasn't an apology or me saying, I just want you to say, oh, you're okay, Dad.
You're just wishing blessing upon them.
Exactly. And doing it now, even though they don't live with me any longer, and I sent those letters out, oh, my gosh, the conversations that's created. So when my now son-in-law came and asked for my daughter's hand in marriage, he actually didn't. That's a funny story. But I had the same conversation with him, a long conversation that's still ongoing whenever we're alone. And it's just a different, it's a more humble, more, I think, Christ-centered, more love other people like you love yourself approach. I don't know if I answered your question, but that's what you threw my way.
That's right.
I see you as like an NFL quarterback that the game is slowed down, and you're able to see things clearly. You're able to process things better in order to make your next move the better move for the team.
That's a brilliant analogy.
Wow,
I can see it. I can see what you're saying.
Not Aaron Rodgers, but okay.
Yeah.
More Josh Allen.
Bingo. But seriously, and you're sort of like me. Every 5 years I had that itch that I had to do something different, either within the company or in another aspect of sales, all right? Because it was like, what's next? I don't want to be the president, but what's next, okay? What advice would you give to somebody that doesn't have this clarity, that might be stale, that is just into their routine? It seems like you've got this thing where you can see it. But what advice would you give? Or how would you give that advice to a younger Scott?
Yeah, that's a great question. 3 principles. Expand your network. Understand what a network is. It's not about where you're going to get your next job, although that may happen. Expand network. Meet people. Engage with people. Get to know people. be vulnerable and transparent with yourself. All of the great lessons and opportunities in my life came from people who I had met and often saw something in me I didn't see in myself. And that all came from just meeting people and caring authentically about them, but really being open and vulnerable. So people's critical. Never stop learning. Where I got stale is when the workload was so heavy I had no time to read or attend theater, the arts, get on my bike, being out in nature. Never stop experiencing new things. And you can experience new things with lifelong habits. I've ridden my bicycle since I was a kid. I've ridden many bicycles since I was a kid. But every day you go out, there's a new route. Every day you can ride with different people. Every day is different. There's a sense of newness and delight.
New environment. Get out of the house.
New environment. And don't just attend, engage. Don't go to a concert or the symphony and sit there and pull out your phone and be making lists of what needs to happen. And the third thing is you got to be involved with individuals. You have to constantly challenge yourself, and you have to take risk. You have to do things.
Expound on that one, please.
You have to do hard things. Starting a nonprofit when you don't know how to raise money for a nonprofit is a hard thing. It's a really hard thing. I've been a lifelong athlete, but I got into serious weight training 2 years ago, and I show myself, I'm not going to show you guys, I show the graph of what I'm changing and the volume of weight I lift. I've got a coach so I don't hurt myself. It's hard. Mm-hmm. And on days I lift, by the end of that day, I'm 70 years old. I move a lot better because I do it, but I move a lot slower on those days. It's hard. Yeah. And I'm there, and, you know, my coach is 40. The average gym guy is 30. It's hard. Mm-hmm. And going on mission trips is hard, right? Going to a class on communion and just being one of 40 people who want to learn more and just waiting your turn to talk instead of having to share my story is hard. But I gained so much from it by doing things that may not seem hard to the listener, but are hard for me.
I mean, your comment when you keep saying what you've said a number of times now, that you didn't know how to do a nonprofit because you didn't know how to raise funds. I don't see that as why you were there. Mm-hmm. You were there because of your knowledge and your way to work with people and to train people and to get people going.
And I know what you guys said. You mentioned it. Life has not slowed down. The pace of life, if anything, time goes so fast.
It's accelerated tremendously.
Time goes fast.
But events have slowed down, and you can discern them, and you can appreciate moments and seconds. That's the great gift of getting older.
Wow.
Is there anything else that you want to say to our audience, Scott? This has been fascinating conversation, but
I'm just so fortunate. I'm blessed beyond measure by a God who loves me. I have an incredible wife. I have an incredible family, and I have friends that would stand up for me. I mean, how fortunate am I? Really fortunate.
Thank you so much for being here, sharing your experiences, and I learned a lot in this conversation, and I'm going to be listening to this episode many times because there's a lot of great lessons that I need to put into play from what you said, and hopefully I'll be able to see the play slow down a little bit.
And I want to thank you for inviting me into Ocean. Yeah. I mean, I personally learned a ton in that, and I feel like there's just some undone business there, but thank you for doing that for me.
I was thinking the same thing, Curt. I want to listen to this a couple of times. This is a target-rich environment for good stuff. Yeah.
Well, thank you, guys.
Thank you. This was a blessing. I hope it's a blessing to our listeners, and thanks for joining us on the Redirect Podcast.
We'd like to extend our heartfelt gratitude to the 1819 Innovation Lab at the University of Cincinnati for their incredible support and partnership making this show possible. If you enjoyed today's episode, you can find more of our content on Spotify and Apple Podcasts as well as Instagram. Have questions or want to connect? Drop us a line at info@redirect-u.com. We'd love to hear from you. Remember, there's purpose in your life, so find it and go do something about it.
Hey, I've got one more comment The Redirect podcast is presented solely for educational and entertainment purposes. We engage in an open, honest conversations about personal growth, life transitions, and the lessons we've learned through our own experiences. While we speak as experts in our own lives, we are not licensed therapists, medical professionals, or certified coaches. The content shared on the Redirect podcast is not intended to be a substitute for professional advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Always seek the guidance of qualified professionals for any physical, mental, or emotional concerns that you may have. We're grateful to share this space with you and hope that our stories inspire reflection and connection. If you're in need of more support, we encourage you to connect with a trusted professional who can help.